Good afternoon from Sacred Space at Titania's Realm. It's 1:05 p.m. on the 6th of November 2024. I'll put it out to the multiverse. It's painful for me because my daughter and I are estranged and have been since the 20th of September last year. But happy birthday, Crystal Natalia Ahrens, Talia but Michael Verroet. Hope life's treating you sweet, and hope you had a lovely day or having a lovely day today. And yeah, that's all I've got to say about that. Awful. It's just awful how I've been treated in my entire life, and I could cry rivers and oceans of tears over it, but been there, done that. Got the extruding colanders. So I'm not going to be lost in that consciousness of grief over people who never actually genuinely gave a flying fuck about me, and it is what it is, people of Earth. Just had a long talk to my friend Jackie, and yeah, she said the same. She said it's time to say no to all those entities that don't have your back, your front or your sides, and just suck and fuck and drain and let it all wash away. Painful but necessary at times. So we're as survivors of quite serious child abuse, we deserve to thrive in our own undertakings, even if it means continuously going it alone to stay safe and sane. It's necessary. And don't worry, I'm kind of happy in my misery because I've fought a long, hard battle to be me and sustain myself on this planet mostly alone. So I'm okay with it. It is what it is, babies. So I thought I'd continue reading from O. Henry because they're little vignettes and snippets of how O. Henry looked at life back in, he died in 1910, so was born in 1862, so they're little kind of snapshots of Americana from the time period when he was writing, so they're interesting, and it's all art, babies, and I'm all about the literature, the art, and transmuting shit to spiritual gold, as only writers and artists know how to do, and living our very best life day by day, am I right? So here we go. Beautiful people of planet Earth, greetings from Sacred Space at Titania's Realm. Let us begin. The brief debut of Tildy. If you do not know Bogle's Chop House and Family Restaurant, it is your loss. For if you are one of the fortunate ones who dine expensively, you should be interested to know how the other half consumes provisions. And if you belong to the half to whom waiters' checks are things of moment, you should know Bogle's, for there you get your money's worth, in quantity at least. I like a restaurant that provides good quality and quantity of fare for my bang for my buck, as they say. Bogle's is situated in that highway of bourgeoisie, that boulevard of Brown, Jones and Robinson, 8th Avenue. There are 2 rows of tables in the room, 6 in each row. On each table is a caster stand containing cruets of condiments and seasons. From the pepper cruet you may shake a cloud of something tasteless and melancholy, like volcanic dust. Well, that doesn't sound appetizing. I like pepper to taste like real pepper. From the salt cruet you may expect nothing, though a man should extract a sanguinary stream from the pallid turnip, yet will his prowess be balked when he comes to wrest salt from Bogle's cruets. Also upon each table stands the counterfeit of that benign sauce made from the recipe of a nobleman in India. At the cashier's desk sits Bogle, cold, sordid, slow, smouldering, and takes your money. Behind a mountain of toothpicks, he makes your change, files your cheque, and ejects at you, like a toad, a word about the weather. Hot today, hot, 29 degrees Celsius. How are ya? Hot. Sounds like my ex-husband. That's the reference. How are you, Michael? Hot. I don't miss him. Beyond a corroboration of his meteorological statement, you would better not venture. You are not Bogle's friend. You are a fed, transient customer, and you and he may not meet again until the blowing of Gabriel's dinner horn. So take your change and go, you filthy animal. No, I threw that in. It actually says, so take your change and go to the devil if you like, which is pretty much the same thing. There you have Bogle's sentiments, which was kind of like buying food for my ex-husband and my business Chicken Express. It was very bad for my business. The only reason that business thrived was because people liked my fiery, wild, exuberant and expansive personality. And the food was good. Just don't buy it off my ex-husband, just saying. The needs of Bogle's customers, it's why the business failed after I left, I might add. No one wants to buy sustenance from a malcontent, miserable, low-life motherfucker. It's not good for your appetite juices, just saying. Or anything else for that matter. Don't mention the sex life I had with him. Told you not to mention it. I might get triggered. You know what happens when I get triggered? Anything can happen, babies. The needs of Bogle's customers were supplied by 2 waitresses and a voice with a capital V. One of the waitresses was named Eileen. She was tall, beautiful, lively, gracious and learned in persiflage. Right, there's a word I don't know. Persiflage. Don't laugh. Sometimes Mama T has to admit she doesn't know what she doesn't know. Persiflage. Huh. Well, I'm learned in that too, baby boys and baby girls. Light and slightly contemptuous mockery or banter. An air of persiflage. Holy crap. Well, that's some frivolous, bantering talk. I must remember that. Learned and persiflage. Her other name? There was no more necessity for another name at Bogle's than there was for finger bowls. The name of the other waitress was Tildy. Why do you suggest Matilda? Please listen this time. Tildy. Tildy. Tildy was dumpy, plain-faced, and too anxious to please. Yes, I hate those types that are overly obsequious and grovelling and sycophantic and submissive and slithering or sidewinding verminous. Calm your farm, Tanya. Don't engage in the persiflage. Repeat the last clause to yourself once or twice and make the acquaintance of the duplicate infinite. Too anxious to please, to please. Too anxious to please, to please. I follow directions. Sometimes, if the mood takes me. Not always confrontational and obstreperous and defiant and rebellious. I can follow orders if the orders make perfect sense and are useful to the collective, unlike the orders that came down in 2020 that were of no real use at all, but the obliteration of my species. Just say. The voice at Bogle's was invisible. It came from the kitchen and did not shine in the way of originality. It was a heathen voice and contented itself with vain repetitions of exclamations emitted by the waitresses concerning food. Will it tire you to be told again that Eileen was beautiful? Had she donned a few $100 worth of clothes and joined the Easter parade, and had you seen her, you would have hastened to say so yourself. The customers at Bogle's were her slaves. 6 tables full she could wait upon at once. Very clever. They who were in a hurry restrained their impatience for the joy of merely gazing upon her swiftly moving, graceful figure. They who had finished eating ate more than they might continue in the light of her smiles. Every man there, and they were mostly men, tried to make his impression upon her. Oh, don't you love it when they do that? It's sweet, innit? Sometimes vile and creepy as fuck. It's a fine line between pleasure and pain. Boys. Eileen could successfully exchange repartee against a dozen at once. My kind of woman. And every smile that she sent forth lodged like pellets from a scattergun in as many hearts. And all this while she would be performing astounding feats with orders of pork and beans, pot roasts, ham and sausage and the wheats, and any quantity of things on the iron and in the pan and straight up and on the side. With all this feasting and flirting and merry exchange of wit, Bogle's came mighty near being a salon, with Eileen for its Madame. Recamier, we need to Google. Recamier, my babies. Recamier. Right. I wonder if they have it. Come. E-A. Showing me things about furniture. Juliette Recamier was a French socialite whose salon drew people from the leading what? For the love of all the gods. Literary and political circles of the early 19th century Paris. An icon of neoclassicism, Recamier cultivated a public persona as a great beauty, and her fame quickly spread across Europe. She befriended many intellectuals, sat with the finest artists of the age, and spurred an offer of marriage from Prince Augustus of Prussia. Being Prussian, he would have been flat-headed and probably boring. How do I know this? A little bit Prussian myself. Don't lie to me. I think that's what they mean. That's what came up. Let's go back. Récamier meaning. Oh, Madame Récamier. Yes, refers to Juliette Récamier. So there you go. I didn't know what on earth we were referencing here, but now we all know together. If the transients were entranced by the fascinating Eileen, the regulars were her adorers. There was much rivalry among many of the steady customers. Eileen could have had an engagement every evening. I don't think they mean an engagement of the prelude to a marriage kind either. Just saying. At least twice a week someone took her to a theatre or to a dance. She's doing better than I am, girlfriend. And she got dated before they tried to fornicate her. Well. Maybe I should try being nicer and more alluring and a little bit fucking weak. Sorry, Mama T can't do it. I can't come at that. I fought too hard to be me. One stout gentleman, stout, that means wide and fat, people are there, whom she and Tildy had privately christened the Hog, presented her with a turquoise ring. It's all right, honeys. I bought my own turquoise recently. Just got to buy the silver and I'll be making my own turquoise ring. I wait for no man and his fripperies. Also, I have no desire to be in a financial soul contract with fake unloving men. Make my own jewellery, own my own shit, transmute my own shit into spiritual gold, dance my dance, mush and go home. It's powerful and it's beautiful in its own way, but not many people get me, and I'm okay with it. Another one known as fleshy. Besides, I think if a man were to gift me, he should be gifting me diamonds, not turquoise rings. Upgrade, up level, have some fucking dignity, girlfriends of Earth. They can't give you a scrap under their fingernail. Grow your own fingernails. Another one known as Fleshy, who rode on the Traction Company's repair wagon, was going to give her a poodle as soon as his brother got the hauling contract in the 9th. And the man who always ate spare ribs and spinach. Oh, I see what they just said there. He was going to give her a poodle if he got the hauling. In other words, he was going to give her fucking nothing. He was all fucking talk. Read between the lines, sisters of Estros. Oh yes, we've had those types before, haven't we? The users and the parasites. Well, at least my father-in-law provided me not one but 2 homes. He was a real man, not like that thing I bred with. Happy birthday, Crystal. Anyway, that was then, and this is now. 40 years later, or 39. My daughter turned 39 today. It's a long time ago. So it was 40 years later when I conceived her. Dear Goddess. Dear Goddess. There's a story. Shall I share that story or not? No. Some things deserve to be kept private. It's a sweet story, how I conceived my daughter. It's probably the last sweetness I had with my ex-husband, actually. So yeah, I'll keep it private. Got to keep some nice things to cherish, even though the man was really quite useless in more ways than my babies. And I don't give a fuck if he should look at my YouTube videos, which I hope he doesn't, because I have no interest in him even observing me from a distance. But everything I say on YouTube about my attitudes to people, friends, lovers, countrymen, is the truth. Sometimes I hold back to save people's feelings. Sometimes I don't hold back, but it's always the truth. So if you don't want to hear the truth, don't spy on my channel and you won't get upset and disappointed about the real facts of life. Men of earth, make love to your wives gloriously to the point of orgasm each and every time. Don't waste our time and energy. Don't waste that precious sexual energy on your own selfish selves. Just saying. I have to laugh. 12 years of that shit. Anyway, where was I? It's alright. I've made up for it since then. I'm not bitter. Life went on and on and on. And I had to shut up shop for the last 10 years because of evil, sadistic, low-level fucking entities. But life's blossoming again in the most beautiful and profound, magical ways. And you never know when Mama T might open. And always my darlings, for the right man at the right time, with heart and soul and deep passion and honour towards me. Anyway, where were we? We've segued a little bit there, I know. But I see the funny side of it too. Life is weird and funny. Oh, that's right, we got lost at the man who promised, pardon me, her a poodle. And the man who always ate spare ribs and spinach. Yuck. And said he was a stockbroker, pardon me, asked her to go to Parsifal in brackets with him. I need to Google that. I don't know what Parsifal sounds is. This is a thing. This is very old American English dating back to the end of the last century. Parsifal is a music drama in 3 acts by the German composer Richard Wagner, who was an anti-Semite, and his last composition. Well, now we know. It also is a respelling of Percival, adopts a definition, pierce the valley, referring to someone moving straight through the middle. This age-old title has many spelling variations that appear across Welsh mythology and Arthurian legend. Right, so it's a kind of an opera and extolling the virtue of compassion and blessing, Amfortas's suffering for making a pure full knowing, Parsifal replaces Amfortas in his kingly office and offers to unveil the Grail, which is never to be hidden again. It's a poetic rendering of Percival's quest for the Grail, inspired by Richard Wagner's Parsifal and including details from other medieval sources, blah blah, blah blah, and so on and so forth. Well, we know, so he meant he wanted her to take her to the opera or whatever. Would have been an opera. I don't know where this place is, said Eileen, while talking it over with Tildy, but the wedding ring's got to be on before, put a stitch into a travelling dress. Ain't that right? Well, I guess. But Tildy, in steaming, shattering, cabbage-scented bogles, there was almost a heart tragedy. Tildy, with the blunt nose, the hay-coloured hair, the freckled skin, the bag-o'-meal figure, had never had an admirer. Not a man followed her with his eyes when she went to and fro in the restaurant, save now and then when they glared with the beast hunger for food. None of them bantered with her gaily to coquettish interchanges of wit. None of them loudly jollied her of mornings as they did Eileen, accusing her, when the eggs were slow in coming, of late hours in the company of envied swains. No one had ever given her a turquoise ring or invited her upon a voyage to mysterious, distant Parseval. Tildy was a good waitress, and the men tolerated her. They, who sat at her tables, spoke to her briefly with quotations from the bill of fare, and then raised their voices in honeyed and otherwise flavoured accents, eloquently addressed to the fair Eileen. They writhed in their chairs to gaze around and over the impending form of Tildy, that Eileen's pulchritude might season and make ambrosia of their bacon and eggs. I did know what that meant at one time, but I've forgotten, so we'll go back to pulchritude. See, I'm having trouble remembering things. It's not good. Beauty. Her beauty is pulchritude. The irresistible pulchritude of her friend. Beautiful. Now, I should have known that because I've Googled that before. Well, anyway. So that Eileen's pulchritude, beauty, might season and make ambrosia of their bacon and eggs. Who doesn't want to look at someone beautiful? Even women enjoy looking at another exquisitely beautiful woman or man. Beauty's in the eye of the beholder as always, but real beauty, rare beauty is something that takes the breath away from both genders. And Tildy was content to be the unwooed drudge if Eileen could receive the flattery and the homage. The blunt nose was loyal to the short Grecian. She was Eileen's friend. She was glad to see her rule hearts and wean the attention of men from smoking pot pie and lemon meringue. Lemon meringue. Do like that. But deep below our freckles and hay-coloured hair, the unhandsomest of us dream of a prince or a princess, not vicarious, but coming to us alone. Oh, smallest violin. Stop it, Tanya. You're going to give yourself a nervous breakdown if you go down that pathway, and it'll be funny for everyone on YouTube, and you'll laugh too. I don't have nervous breakdowns on a whim, babies. It's got to be worth it. There was a morning when Eileen tripped in to work with a slightly bruised eye, and Tildy's solicitude was almost enough to heal any optic. Fresh sky, explained Eileen. Last night as I was going home at 23rd and 6th, sashayed up, so he did, and made a break. I turned him down cold, and he made a sneak, but followed me down to 18th and tried his hot air again. Gee, but I slapped him a good one, side of the face. Then he gave me that eye. Does it look real awful, Till? I should hate that Mr. Nicholson should see it when he comes in for his tea and toast at 10. Tildy listened to the adventure with breathless admiration. No man had ever tried to follow her. She was safe abroad at any hour of the 24. What bliss it must have been to have had a man follow one and black one's eye for love. She's got no fucking idea, has she? She needs to grow up. A man blacks my eye for love. He's dead. Dead, I tell you. Well, I'm all talk, aren't I? But the sentiment is there. Among the customers at Bogle's was a young man named Cedars who worked in a laundry office. Mr. Cedars was thin and had light hair and appeared to have been recently rough-dried and starched. Rough-dried and starched. Just got out of prison? I don't know. He was too diffident to aspire to Eileen's notice, so he usually sat at one of Tildy's tables where he devoted himself to silence and boiled weak fish. This food in this restaurant is starting to make me a bit squeamish. No idea what boiled weak fish is, but it sounds utterly revolting, so I don't eat much in the way of seafood. Cod and chips. That's it. One day, when Mr. Cedars came in to dinner, he had been drinking beer. There were only 2 or 3 customers in the restaurant. I'm actually getting a bit hungry. I need to go out and get something for my dinner too, or lunch. We'll finish this story first. We'll finish 2 stories. When Mr. Cedars had finished his weak fish, I must Google that. I've got to know what weak fish is. Again, this must be an old-timey reference, and it's. I just need to know. I won't know till I know. Bastard trout, bastard wheatfish, Cynosian regalis, squettig, common. Just all looks kind of revolting. But anyway, there's a weak fish. It's a natural fish. I just thought it was maybe some kind of code for something. But anyway, there you go. Must be an Americanism. Well, we know now. You know and I know. What do we know? Not very bloody much, but Google is our friend. Just saying. When Mr. Cedars had finished his boiled weak fish, I can't think of anything more revolting. I'm like, he would have had fishy breath. Put his arm around Tildy's waist, kissed her loudly and impudently. With his fishy breath, I would have just gone, oof. But anyway, that's me. Walked out upon the street, snapped his fingers in the direction of the laundry, and hired himself to play pennies in the slot machines at the amusement arcade. I had this guy that I hung out with for quite a few hours actually at the casino one night. He went to kiss me and he smelt of oysters. I said, "You've been eating oysters." "Yes, how do you know?" I said, "You reek of it. I'm going to vomit." And I went, "Look, dude, I realise it's meant to be an aphrodisiac, but you've come up to the wrong woman." He goes, "What do you mean?" I went, "Oh, I fucking hate shellfish, don't I? Number 1, it's not kosher, and number 2, I just want to kiss you." And I went, "Just get away from me, you freak." Off I went. Oh, might have been the best relationship of my life with his stinking oysters Kirkpatrick breath. No, I think not. Not my bag. Not my bag at all. Anyway, he was a strange character. He gave me money to gamble with him. Why would I do that? I'm not here to gamble. What do you do at the casino? I dance all night to obliteration and go home. Oh, come and gamble with me. I said, I told you I'm not a gambler. He said, I'll pay you to gamble with me. I'm like, how much are you going to pay me? He said, whatever you win, you keep. Liar that he was. I actually won about $400. Gave me $90. I guess it was nice of him to give me $90. He had bought me a few drinks. But I'm not a prostitute either, so it was kind of that flavour that I was being treated as if I was some kind of fucking escort. I thought it was a bit cheeky, actually. And then the attempt to kiss me with his stinking oyster's breath. I went, no, that's a bridge too far. I was quite happy to play blackjack with you and win and lose and win some money, but now I'm done. Anyway, it was some fantasy he was playing out in his head because I'm pretty sure he was married, and I did a quick little sidestep and flicked him off and lived to tell the story another day, babies. Mama T's pretty smart, really, in the broad scheme of things. She doesn't usually get entrapped in these lurid, sordid little escapades. And when she does, there's a higher reason for it. Dear goddess, ergo, shut up shop. Shut up. Not shop, but closed everything down for 10 fucking years. And I'm not sorry about that. To preserve my dignity, my honour, and my womanliness for the right man who's worthy of me. Is there one out there? Guess I'll find out when, long after I'm dead in the spirit world, I'll be like, oh, I remember you. I met you once. Yeah. Get away from me, motherfucker. I'll be doing that. I'll be bearing grudges right into eternity because I'm a bit like that. Anyway, if you've been loved by the Mama T though, wow, that too is an astonishing gift that most men haven't even valued or appreciated. That's why I get a little bit upset and bitter at times. Don't mind me. Where was I? He kissed her loudly and impudently, walked out upon the street, snapped his fingers in the direction of the laundry and hied himself to play pennies in the slot machines at the amusement arcade, like any other man with fishy, stinky breath, throwing away pennies and slot machines. So I was like paralleling that reality without even finishing off the fucking paragraph. Reality's flubbery at the moment. Everything's upside down and inside out, and I'm trying to draw in a loving partner out of an apocalypse and zombified existence, and Hayoka style, back to front, ass first on the back of my horse, if I were American Indian, that is. The fool, the Hayoka. Never mind. It's how the gods built me, darlings. Decades and decades of trauma and dishonour and fucking disrespect. That's why I've got a very, very hair trigger nerve for that now. Don't do it. Don't do it. Mama T will send you back to the abyss. I spent decades climbing out of my abyss, and I'll be damned if anyone's going to drag me down there with them ever again. Fuck off. Anyway, where was I? For a few moments, Tildy stood petrified. What's going on here? My computer did a little ding. A little ding, ding, ding. They're still filming, so I won't worry about it. When she was aware of Eileen shaking at her an arch forefinger and saying, oh, then she was aware of Eileen shaking at her an arch forefinger and saying, why, Till, you naughty girl, ain't you getting to be awful, Miss Slyboots? First thing I know, you'll be stealing some of my fellows. I must keep an eye on you, my lady. Bitch, as if she hasn't got enough men trawling after her. You think she can just share, like, the occasional suitor with her plain friend who's just deserving of love like any other mortal on this planet? Another thing dawned upon Tildy's recovering wits. In a moment she had advanced from a hopeless, lowly admirer to an Eve-sister of the potent Eileen. She herself was now a man-charmer. Hardly call that man charming with his fishy fucking weak fish breath. The story's not about me though, is it? Britannia, behave. I'm joking, people there. Can you tell them I'm joking? No. Had to be there, I guess. She herself was now a man-charmer and a mark for Cupid. You've got to watch that little angel. It's dangerous. A Sabine who must be coy when the Romans were at their banquet boards. Man had found her waist achievable and her lips desirable. The sodden and amatory cedars. Convenient name chosen by O. Henry. The sudden and amatory cedars, as it were, performed for her a miraculous piece of one-day laundry work. He had taken the sackcloth of her uncomeliness, had washed, dried, starched and ironed it, and returned it to her sheer embroidered lawn, the robe of Venus herself. You go, girlfriend. Personally, I would have preferred to don that robe for a man with nicer, fresher breath, but that's just me. The freckles on Tildy's cheeks merged into a rosy flush. Now both Circe and Psyche peeped from her brightened eyes. Not even Eileen herself had been publicly embraced and kissed in the restaurant. She doesn't get it, does she? It's actually a mark of great disrespect, but she's too stupid to know that, which is why she remains plain, boring and grateful for crumbs, am I right? Don't do that to my sisters of Estros. Treat us like the goddesses and queens we were always born to be. Even us hobbit plain ones. Tildy could not keep the delightful secret. When trade was slack, she went and stood at Bogle's desk. Her eyes were shining. She tried not to let her words sound proud and boastful. A gentleman insulted me today. Oh, she wasn't quite so stupid. She understood that it was an insult. Give you another point, Tildy. A gentleman insulted me today, she said. He hugged me around the waist and kissed me. That's so, said Bogle, cracking open his business armour. After this week, you get $1 a week more. Well, 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 baby girl and baby boy. At the next regular meal, when Tildy set food before customers with whom she had acquaintance, she said to each of them modestly, as one whose merit needed no bolstering, "A gentleman insulted me today in the restaurant. He put his arm around my waist and kissed me." The diners accepted the revelation in various ways. Some incredulously, some with congratulations. Others turned upon her the stream of badinage that had hitherto been directed at Eileen alone. And Tildy's heart swelled in her bosom, for she saw at last the towers of romance rise above the horizon of the grey plain in which she had for so long travelled. For 2 days, Mr. Cedars came not again. During that time, Tildy established herself firmly as a woman to be wooed. She bought ribbons and arranged her hair like Eileen's and tightened her waist 2 inches. That's a lot to tighten in these days, babies. That's even I would not tighten my stays that tight. She had a thrilling but delightful fear that Mr. Cedars would rush in completely and shoot her with a pistol. He must have loved her desperately, and impulsive lovers are always blindly jealous. Even some not quite so impulsive ones, even the ones playing the long game, thinking they're grinding me down, am I right? Even Eileen, who had not been shot at with a pistol, and then Tildy rather hoped that he would not shoot at her, for she was always loyal to Eileen. She did not want to overshadow her friend. How many times have I got to tell you, Tildy? Every woman for herself. Don't let your more prettier, glamorous friends overshadow you. The right man will choose you for you, not for the other women they like to shove in your face and torture you with. That was then. This is now, baby boys and baby girls. At 4 o'clock on the afternoon of the 3rd day, Mr. Cedars came in. There were no customers at the tables. At the back end of the restaurant, Tildy was refilling the mustard pots, and I can hear someone in the background, some spirit, laughing hysterically. Yes, it is that home, my darlings. Where were we? There were no customers at the tables, and at the back end of the restaurant, Tildy was refilling the mustard pots and Eileen was quartering pies. Mr. Cedars walked back to where they stood. Tildy looked up and saw him, gasped, and pressed the mustard spoon upon her heart. A red hair bow was in her hair. She wore Venus's 8th Avenue badge, the blue bead necklace with the swinging silver symbolic heart. Oh, bless. Sweet little Tildy. Sweet little Tildy wants a man. Never mind. Corazon, child. Have courage. Own your own sacred heart. Mr. Cedars was flushed and embarrassed. He plunged one hand into his hip pocket and the other into a fresh pumpkin pie. "Miss Tildy," said he, "I want to apologise for what I'd done the other evening. Tell you the truth, I was pretty well tanked up or I wouldn't have done it. I wouldn't do no lady that away when I was sober. So I hope, Miss Tildy, you'll accept my apology and believe that I wouldn't have done it if I'd known what I was doing and hadn't have been drunk. With this handsome plea, Mr. Cedars backed away and departed, feeling that reparation had been made. He's about to fucking die. How do I know? Don't ask me how I know. But behind the convenient screen, Tildy had thrown herself flat upon a table among the butter chips and the coffee cups, and was sobbing her heart out and back again to the grey plain wherein travel they with blunt noses and hay-coloured hair. From her knot she had torn the red hair bow and cast it upon the floor. Cedars she despised utterly. She had but taken his kiss as that of a pioneer and prophetic prince who might have set the clocks going and the pages to running in fairyland. But the kiss had been maudlin and unmeant. The court had not stirred at the false alarm. She must forever remain the Sleeping Beauty. Yet not all was lost. Eileen's arm was around her, and Tildy's red hand groped among the butter chips till it found the warm grasp of her friend's. "Don't you fret, Till," said Eileen, who did not understand entirely. "That turnip-faced little clothespin of a Cedars ain't worth it. He ain't anything of a gentleman, or he wouldn't ever have apologised." The end. I think I lived my whole love life in that story. Some of it anyway. I'm looking forward to being kissed by a man with deep passion for me who means it sometime in the future. Chapter 4. Telemachus, friend. Returning from a hunting trip, I waited at the little town of Los Pinos in New Mexico for the southbound train that was 1 hour late. I sat on the porch of the Summit House and discussed the functions of life with Telemachus Hicks, the hotel proprietor. Perceiving that personalities were not out of order, I asked him what species of beast had long ago twisted and mutilated his left ear. Being a hunter, I was concerned in the evils that may befall one in the pursuit of game. "That ear," said Hicks, "is the relic of true friendship." "An accident?" I persisted. No friendship is an accident," said Telemachus, and I was silent. "The only perfect case of true friendship I ever knew," went on my host, "was a cordial intent between a Connecticut man and a monkey. The monkey climbed palms in Barranquilla and threw down coconuts to the man. The man sawed them in two and made dippers, which he sold for 2 reales each, and bought rum. The monkey drank the milk of the coconuts. Through each being satisfied with his own share of the graft, they lived like brothers. But in the case of human beings, friendship is a transitory art, subject to discontinuance, without further notice. I had a friend once of the entitlement of Paisley fish that I imagined was sealed to me for an endless space of time. Side by side for 7 years we had mined, ranched, sold patent churns, herded sheep, took photographs and other things, built wire fences and picked prunes. Wouldn't they be plums before they turned to prunes? Thinks I, neither homicide, nor flattery, nor riches, nor sophistry, nor drink can make trouble between me and Paisley Fish. We was friends in a amount you could hardly guess at. We was friends in business, and we let our amicable qualities lap over and season our hours of recreation and folly. We certainly had days of Damon and nights of Pythias. One summer me and Paisley gallops down into these San Andreas mountains for the purpose of a month's surcease and levity, dressed in the natural store habiliments of man. We hit this town of Los Pinos, which certainly was a roof garden spot of the world, and flowing with condensed milk and honey. Condensed milk and honey. It had a street or two and air and hens and an eating house, and that was enough for us. We strikes the town after supper time, and we concludes to sample whatever efficacy there is in this eating house down by the railroad tracks. By the time we had sat down and fried up our plates with a knife from the red oilcloth, along intrudes Widow Jessup with the hot biscuit and the fried liver. Now, there was a woman who would have tempted an anchovy to forget his vows. She was not so small as she was large, and a kind of welcome air seemed to mitigate her vicinity. The pink of her face was the in hoc signo of a culinary temper and a long disposition, and her smile would have brought out the dogwood blossoms in December. Just got a contractor here. He's actually here for the neighbour, but he's got to go through my property to fix the fence at the back, so we may be interrupted very, very soon. So I'll disappear, but I'll be back. Widow Jessup talks to us a lot of garrulousness about the climate and history and Tennyson and prunes and the scarcity of mutton, and finally wants to know where we came from. Spring Valley, says I. God, that man's a terrible driver. Jesus. Suppose it's a big trailer to maneuver though. Big Spring Valley, chips in Paisley, out of a lot of potatoes and knucklebone of ham in his mouth. This was the first sign I noticed that the old Phaedrus Diogenes business between me and Paisley Fish was ended forever. He knew how I hated a talkative person, and yet he stampedes into the conversation with his amendments and addendums of syntax. On the map it was Big Spring Valley, but I had heard Paisley himself call it Spring Valley 1,000 times. Without saying any more, we went out after supper and sat on the railroad track. We had been partners too long not to know what was going on in each other's mind. I reckon you understand, says Paisley, that I've made up my mind to accrue that widow woman as part and parcel in and to my hereditaments forever, both domestic, sociable, legal and otherwise, until death us do part. Why, yes, says I read it between the lines, though you only spoke one. The Joneses, here we are. All right.
We're just going to fix that a little bit.
Yep. You want me to show you how to access it? The men were like, they were like, oh my God, that's an enormous snake. I'm like, wasn't lying. But she was active. She was moving her head. I was like, and then the father arrived and he went to take a photo. I wouldn't get too close because she's the most active I've seen her in 7 days. The fact that she's active is a good sign she might be ready to move on away from my sacred space garden, am I right? She's gorgeous, but she's freaking me out because, well, I mean, I got used to her being here, but it's a lot. It's a lot having a pet carpet python right near your back door. But anyway, even though it's the second lot of workmen that have come and actually went freaked out because she's a big snake. But, you know, the father said, oh, she won't hurt anything. He was getting really close. I went, I wouldn't. She'll bite you. Just bleed. I was like, I just don't want her upset, quite frankly. I feel quite protective of my snake now that I've got used to her living here. But anyway, it is what it is. Mama T, guardian of sacred space and Titania's realm. I don't want my snakes disturbed either. Well, you disturb the snake's going to disturb me, am I right? Circle of life. Just got all over. Perfect harmonic resonance. Damn it. Anyway, where were we? Oh, yes. We had been partners too long not to know what was going on in each other's mind. I reckon you understand, says Paisley, that I've made up my mind to accrue that widow woman. Oh, we read that. Okay, now I've got to find where we're at. Why, yes, says I read it between the lines, though you only spoke one, and I suppose you are aware, says I, that I have a movement on foot that leads up to the widow's changing her name to Hicks and leaves you right into the society column to inquire whether the best man wears a japonica or seamless socks at the wedding. There'll be some hiatuses in your program, says Paisley, chewing up a piece of railroad tie. I'd give in to you, says he, in most any respect, if it was secular affairs, but this is not so. The smiles of woman, goes on Paisley, is the whirlpool of squills and chalybeats into which vortex the good ship friendship is often drawn and dismembered. I'd have sold a bear that was annoying you, says Paisley, or I'd endorse your note, or rub the place between your shoulder blades with Opodeldoc, the same as ever. I've no idea what Opodeldoc is, but it must be some kind of liniment. But there my case of etiquette ceases. Let's Google I can't even freaking pronounce it. Opodeldoc. No results because I spelled it off. Do you mean Opodeldoc? Is a medicinal plaster or liniment invented or at least named by the German Renaissance physician Paracelsus in the 1500s. What is it used for? It's a valuable remedy in violent sprains and bruises where not attended with inflammation, and its efficacy is increased when combined with a teaspoonful of laudanum to the ounce and used as an embrocation in rheumatic and local pains and in colic and spasms of the bowels. I think in this instance they were talking about sprains and pains, rubbing it on his back. So there you know. We know now. Opodeldoc. And there my sense of etiquette ceases. In this fracas with Mrs. Jessup, we play it alone. I've notified you fair. And then I collaborates with myself and offers the following resolutions and bylaws. Friendship between man and man, says I, is an ancient historical virtue enacted in the days when men had to protect each other against lizards with 80-foot tails and flying turtles and serpents at your back door, am I right? And they've kept up the habit to this day and stand by each other till the bellboy comes up and tells them the animals are not really there. I've often heard, I says, about ladies stepping in and breaking up a friendship between men. Why should that be? I'll tell you, Paisley. The first sight and hot biscuit of Mrs. Jessup appears to have inserted an oscillation into each of our bosoms. I like that. Inserted an oscillation into their bosoms. Sweet way of describing falling in love, am I right? I must remember that next time I'm at the Brooklyn stand and some seedy character comes to flirt with me. I'll be like, no, honey, you haven't got what it takes to set an oscillation up in my bosom. I'll be like, what are you on, lady? What drugs are you on? Are you drunk? I'll be like, no, I do this shit stone cold sober because I can. Sling me a Jack Daniels just to assuage the impending violent nerves, though. You kind of have to laugh. I'm not that bad. Ask anyone. I'm not that bad. My reputation precedes me, but I'm not actually that bad. Besides, I fucking created that reputation single-handedly. It's my mojo. It's my voodoo queen. It's my Brisbane voodoo queen, my goddess energy. It's my attitude. It's my... Where is my boy? My boy. My beautiful, handsome, talented Jared made me a representation of Papa Legba, but I'll have to get him to make me a representation of the goddess Azuli because Papa's my protector, but I need to what's the word? Enhance the love energy. So someone can set an oscillation in my bosom for real this time and mean it. Oh, you have to laugh. Oh, Mama T, sweet little Mama T. I do guys. What will become of her Mama T? She's going to get older and crazier and more mischievous because she gives no flying fucks. And now I have serpents at my back door. Set men's hearts to oscillation in a whole different kind of a way. Oh, Lilith, Azuli, Venus, Aphrodite, all you wonderful earthly goddesses of love and passion and romance and earthy world. Rambunctious sex. You're all stirring up the Mama T, but the energy is out there. It's right out there at my back door, literally. Oh, I'd take you to show you my beautiful girl right now because she's moving. But you're on the laptop, so I can't. Damn it. iPhone storage hassles. It's killing me. I need a new phone. I need a better phone. I need to pay off that contract so I can buy a better phone. I'm done with the horse shit with Optus, that's for sure. Optus, I'm done with you and your horse shit. But anyway, on we go and on we go. As soon as I pay off that phone, I'll be changing companies too. 30 years a customer, a loyal customer. 30 fucking years. Don't get me started on that war I've just completed not long ago. Still not happy about it all, quite frankly. But anyway, the iPhone storage thing, I don't know why it's doing that. I've done everything to clear it. The last thing I have to try is a factory reset, which I'm reluctant to do because I don't want to lose data and information. But I may have to do it. Might have to bite that bullet. Anyway, where was I? The oscillation in their bosoms. Let the best man of us have her. I'm sure there's plenty of other women to go around, guy friends. Do you have to behave like primeval animals over one widow? Must be either a very, very small town or there's not many females around, and Jesus. I once had this friend, I won't name names, she was like an evil piece of shit, she turned out to be in the end. She was obsessed with me in kind of almost a lesbian tendencies way. And she had this mad idea one time. She came in, she says, Tanya, I had a brilliant idea. I said, what's that? She said, she was a forensic psych nurse. She says, I'm going to update my midwifery training certification. I said, how long does that take? Oh, not long, I'm already a trained midwife as well. Registered nurse and that. I said, oh yeah, what are you going to do then? Well, once I've got my midwifery certification up and running, Tanya, she said, I've got a plan. I said, what's that? She said, we're going to get on a plane, you and I, we're going to move to Alaska. Alaska, I says. Alaska, I says, in a very small, squeaky voice. Alaska is cold as fuck. It's north of Canada. You feel me? She says, we're going to go to Alaska. I said, whatever for? She said, loggers. Loggers, I said. Yeah, she said. I'll work all day as a midwife. I said, how many women are going to need midwives in a loggers camp? Oh, they're going to have wives and girlfriends, she said. Are you sure about that? I said. Yeah, she says. They're going to need my professional capacity. What am I going to be doing there? I says to her. Oh, you're going to keep house and keep the house clean and cook while I work all day? So this sounds like marriage, Gail. Sounds like a fucking marriage. And she said, yeah. She said, it'll serve both purposes. I work, I bring in the money like a husband, and you cook and you clean. I start grinning mischievously. Gail, I said, Gail, have you ever known me to fucking cook and clean? Even now for my own fucking self, never mind a man or a woman. You'll do it, she says. You'll do it. I'll be pulling in the gravy and you'll cook and you'll clean. And then on the weekends, we're going to be out fucking all the loggers. I said, Gail, even if I wanted to fuck the loggers in Alaska, all those men in plaid and those awful fucking bush shirts like they wear in New Zealand, which do not turn me on, by the way, and the stench of sweat and dead animals because they're all hunters as well. Do you think that's going to get my juices going? Do you think that's going to stimulate me? Are you out of your mind, Gail? She really was out of her mind. Yeah, Tanya, I'm going to get my certification. We'll just live together like two little old ladies, and you'll cook and clean. And the weekends we'll be down all the bars at the loggers camp, picking up loggers. I said, look, Gail, I get that you're horny and you kind of are into rugged, rough, wild men, and I get that it might be semi-attractive to you, but it's not really my bag. She says, why, Tanya? She goes, you can do it. It's fun. I said, fun for who? I'm stuck doing the cooking and the cleaning. I feel aggrieved already and we haven't even got there yet. Besides, I says, Gail, says, with my bad lungs and my chest infections and my proclivity to getting bronchitis the second even a cold breeze walks through, how do you think I would go getting off the plane in winter time in Alaska? One intake of breath and I'll be in hospital and dead. Oh shit, she said. I forgot about that. What are we going to do about your lungs, Tanya? Oh yeah. Well, I'll tell you what we're going to do about my lungs, Gail. We're going to stay here in sweltering, sweating hellscape of nothingness in Brisbane, Australia, because at least it's warmer here and there might not be rough and ready logger men waiting to perchance their chances with you, Gail, but there's plenty of other kinds of men if you're that way inclined. And also, you don't get to live out your lesbian fantasies and domesticate the Tanya. The Tanya will not be tamed by you. Anyway, this is how the conversation went. And then I laughed and she kind of went and did a little bit of assault because she really had that fantasy. She really was intent on that happening for our future. Then she caught swine flu 2009 and wanted me to die with her like Thelma and Louise. I said, you've been watching too many lesbian movies. Just stop it now, Gail. I'm not gay, and no offence to the ladies of that persuasion, my sisters of Estros, but I don't swing that way. If I was going to swing any which way, it would be for masculine men, maybe not loggers in Alaskan loggers camps or sugar shacks in Canada, but like real men, real heart, and real soul, and libidos, and generosity of spirit, and back pocket, and kindness and sweetness towards the Tanya. Am I right? It's astonishing how many of my female friends over the years almost fantasized about me being their lesbian lover, which would be fine if I actually were lesbian. It's a bit odd. My psychiatrist said it's because they're attracted to my strength and my power and my survivalism and my masculine energy, which is very powerful, which was a gift that got handed to me when I was 6 years old, and I realised I wasn't safe with any of the motherfuckers in my family, so I'd have to be my own daddy and big brother and my own inner man, which, as I said in a video yesterday, is no one dares fuck with that potent energy, just saying. But yes. Anyway, where was I? I digressed, but something got me going on the theme of loggers, wasn't it? Fighting over women, that's the one. Let the best man of us have her. I'll play you a square game and won't do any underhanded work. I'll do all of my courting of her in your presence. Well, that's honest. So you will have an equal opportunity. With that arrangement, I don't see why our steamboat of friendship should fall overboard in the medicinal whirlpools you speak of, whichever of us wins out. Good old Hoss, says Paisley, shaking my hand. And I'll do the same, says he. We'll court the lady synonymously, and without any of the prudery and bloodshed usual to such occasions, and we'll be friends still, win or lose. At one side of Mrs. Jessop's eating house was a bench under some trees, where she used to sit in the breeze after the southbound had been fed and gone. And there me and Paisley used to congregate after supper and make partial payments on our respects to the lady of our choice. And we were so honourable and circuitous in our calls that if one of us got there first, we waited for the other before beginning any gallivantery. She would have just loved that. She would have thought, you dumb motherfuckers, I'm going to torture you both simultaneously or synonymously. But anyway, I'm projecting a little bit on what I would do. The first evening that Mrs. Jessop knew about our arrangement, I got to the bench before Paisley did. Supper was just over and Mrs. Jessop was out there with a fresh pink dress on and almost cool enough to handle. Oh, I like that expression. She was almost cool enough to handle big boys. Sounds like something Mae West would say. What are you doing, man? Oh, I'm just being cool enough to handle. Anyway, Mama T's too fucking cool for her own schooling, but you get that. I sat down by her and made a few specifications about the moral surface of nature as set forth by the landscape and the contiguous perspective. That evening was surely a case in point. The moon was attending to business in the section of sky where it belonged, and the trees was making shadows on the ground according to science and nature, and there was a kind of conspicuous hullabaloo going on in the bushes behind the bullbats and the orioles and the jackrabbits and other feathered insects of the forest. And the wind out of the mountains was singing like a Jew's harp in the pile of old tomato cans by the railroad track. Stop annoying me, Charlie, or I'll feed you to Madam at the back door. I felt I would never do such a thing. She's my baby. I felt a kind of sensation in my left side, something like dough rising up in a crock by the fire. Mrs. Jessup had moved up closer. "Oh, Mr. Hicks," says she, "when one is alone in all the world, don't they feel it more aggravated on a beautiful night like this?" I rose up off the bench at once. "Excuse me, ma'am," says I, "but I'll have to wait till Paisley comes before I can give an audible hearing to leading questions like that." And then I explained to her how we was friends, cinctured by years of embarrassment and travel and complicity, and how we had agreed to take no advantage of each other in any of the more mushy walks of life, ouch, such as might be fomented by sentiment and proximity. Mrs. Jessup appears to think serious about the matter for a minute. And then she breaks into a species of laughter that makes the wild wood resound. In a few minutes, Paisley drops around with oil of bergamot on his hair and sits on the other side of Mrs. Jessup and inaugurates a sad tale of adventure in which him and Pie-Face Longley has a skinning match of dead cows in '95 for a silver-mounted saddle in the Santa Rita Valley during the 9 months drought. Skinning cows. Skinning match of dead cows. Hardly romantic. It's a bit like my parlay with a certain someone when we discussed our colonoscopy and, what was it? Colonic irrigation! If you can shovel shit with a man, you know it's true love, baby. Oh, you have to laugh. Anyway, true love, true friendship love. Well, it was at one time. Anyway, now from the start of that courtship, I had Paisley Fish hobbled and tied to a post. Each one of us had a different system of reaching out for the easy places in the female heart. Paisley's scheme was to petrify him with wonderful relations of events that he had either come across personally or in large print. I think he must have got his idea of subjugation from one of Shakespeare's shows I see once called Othello. There is a coloured man in it who acquires a duke's daughter by disbursing to her a mixture of the talk turned out by Rider Haggard, Lou Dockstader and Dr. Parkhurst. But that style of courting won't work well off the stage. Now I give you my own recipe for inveigling a woman into the state of affairs when she can be referred to as Nay Jones. Learn how to pick up her hand and hold it, and she's yours. It ain't so easy. Some men grab at it so much like they was going to set a dislocation of the shoulder that you can smell the arnica and hear 'em tearing off bandages. Some take it up like a hot horseshoe and hold it at arm's length like a druggist pouring tincture of asafoetida in a bottle. Oh, I love how this man writes. Asafoetida in a bottle. And most of them catch hold of it and drag it right out before the lady's eyes, like a boy finding a baseball in the grass, without giving her a chance to forget that the hand is growing on the end of her arm. Them ways are all wrong. I'll tell you the right way. Did you ever see a man sneak out in the backyard and pick up a rock to throw at a tomcat that was sitting on a fence looking at him? Did you? He pretends he hasn't got a thing in his hand and that the cat don't see him and that he don't see the cat. That's the idea. Never drag her hand out where she'll have to take notice of it. I'm particularly irritated by men who grab at me like that too. So he's on to something. He knows women well. He's a catch, baby boys and baby girls. Don't let her know that you think she knows. You have the least idea she is aware you are holding her hand. That was my rule of tactics, and as far as Paisley's serenade about hostilities of misadventure went, he might as well have been reading to her a timetable of the Sunday trains that stop at Ocean Grove, New Jersey. One night, when I bet Paisley to the bench by one pipeful, my friendship gets subsidized for a minute, and I asks Miss Jessup if she didn't think an H was easier to write than a J. Oh dear goddess, Charlie, you did a number on me again. You did a number on your mama. You did a number on your mama. You did a number 2 on your mama. Find where we're up to now. She didn't think an H was easier to write than a J. In a second her head was mashing the oleander flower in my buttonhole, and I leaned over but I didn't. If you don't mind, says I, standing up, we'll wait for Paisley to come before finishing this. I've never done anything dishonourable yet to our friendship, and this won't be quite fair. Mr. Hicks, says Mrs. Jessup, looking at me peculiar in the dark. If it wasn't for but one thing, I'd ask you to hike yourself down the gulch and never disresume your visits to my house. And what is that, ma'am? I asks. You are too good a friend not to make a good husband, says she. In 5 minutes, Paisley was on his side of Mrs. Jessup. In Silver City in the summer of '98, he begins, I see Jim Bartholomew chew off a Chinaman's ear in the Blue Light Saloon on account of a cross-barred muslin shirt that... What was that noise? I had resumed matters again with Mrs. Jessup, right where we had left off. Mrs. Jessup, says I, has promised to make it Hicks. And this is another of the same sort. Paisley winds his feet around the leg of the bench and kind of groans. Lem, says he, we've been friends for 7 years. Would you mind not kissing Mrs. Jessup quite so loud? I'd do the same for you. All right, says I. The other kind will do as well. This Chinaman, goes on Paisley, was the one that shot a man named Mullins in the spring of '97, and that was... Paisley interrupted himself again. Lem, says he, if you was a true friend, you wouldn't hug Mrs. Jessup quite so hard. I feel the bench shake all over just then. You know, you told me you would give me an even chance, as long as there was any. Mr. Man, says Mrs. Jessup, turning around to Paisley, if you was to drop in to the celebration of mine and Mr. Hicks' silver wedding 25 years from now, do you think you could get it into that Hubbard squash you call your head that you are nix come roos in this business? I've put up with you a long time because you was Mr. Hicks's friend, but it seems to me it's time for you to wear the willow and trot off down the hill. Mrs. Jessup, says I, without losing my grasp on the situation as fiancé, Mr. Paisley is my friend, and I offered him a square deal and an equal opportunity as long as there was a chance. A chance, says she. Well, he may think he has a chance, but I hope he won't think he's got a cinch after what he's been next to all the evening. Well, a month afterward, me and Mrs. Jessup was married in the Los Pinos Methodist Church, and the whole town closed up to see the performance. Well, we lined up in front, and the preacher was beginning to sing out his rituals and observances. I looks around, and Mrs. Paisley. I calls time on the preacher. Paisley ain't here, says I. We got to wait for Paisley. A friend once, a friend always. That's Telemachus Hicks, says I. Mrs. Jessup's eyes snapped some, but the preacher holds up the incantations according to instructions. Those men have been and gone already. Very quick job. Well, I guess they said it would only take 20 minutes. In a few minutes, Paisley gallops up the aisle, putting on a cuff as he comes. He explains that the only dry goods store in town was closed for the wedding, and he couldn't see the kind of a boiled shirt that his taste called for until he had broke open the back window of the store and helped himself. Then he ranges up on the other side of the bride and the wedding goes on. I always imagined that Paisley calculated as a last chance that the preacher might marry him to the widow by mistake. Oh, bless. After the proceedings was over, we had tea and jerked antelope and canned apricots, and then the populace hiked itself away. Last of all, Paisley shook me by the hand and told me I'd acted square and on the level with him, and he was proud to call me a friend. The preacher had a small house on the side of the street that he'd fixed up to rent, and he allowed me and Mrs. Hicks to occupy it till the 10:40 train the next morning, when he was going on a bridal tour to El Paso. His wife had decorated it all up with hollyhocks and poison ivy, and it looked real festal and bowery. About 10 o'clock that night, I sits down in the front door and pulls off my boots a while in the cool breeze while Mrs. Hicks was fixing around in the room. Right soon the light went out inside, and I sat there a while, reverberating over old times and scenes. And then I heard Mrs. Hicks call out, "Ain't you coming in soon, Len?" Well, says I, kind of rousing up. Dear me, if I wasn't waiting for old Paisley to... But when I got that far, concluded Telemachus Hicks, I thought somebody had shot this left ear of mine off with a 45, but it turned out to be only a lick from a broom handle in the hands of Mrs. Hicks. And thus concludes today's readings of Even Date, which found reasonably delightful, and have a beautiful day. I'm off to check on my girl outside. She was very active just when the men arrived, more active than she's ever been, so I'm taking it as a sign she's about to exit stage left and return to the forest, maybe. So I'm obsessed with her, as you can tell. I've got to check on her and have a beautiful day in the space-time continuum, wherever you are on planet Earth, people of Earth, and stay cool, stay happy, and stay away from people who make plans for your future without your full complicit agreement. Am I right? So, bye for now. God is bless, as always.